Welcome back, guys. So today I want to talk to you guys about my analog washing machine. Okay, so there's no such thing as an analog washing machine because I just made it up, but others call it warmth, saturation, and so forth. Back in the day before the digital workstation era, when capturing sounds or synths or otherwise, it had to travel through a series of preamps, compressor limiters, and circuitry before hitting the tape deck. Mics captured the room, the noise, and all the imperfections and unpredictable elements that contributed to the unique character of individual artists, bands, and producers. During the height of the digital computer workstation craze, there was also a growing counter-movement by some producers, musicians, and composers obsessed with vintage gear, even jerry-rigging 2-inch tape machines and feeding their digital submixes to wash their music through this analog gear. And of course, as this went on, eagerly, music gear companies have answered the bell and released a number of products to supposedly help us get back what we lost. So now we have tape saturation plugins, even analog coloring boxes with analog circuitry that we can wash our sounds through for that analog feel. And this isn't snake oil. There are a number of great examples of feeding sounds through analog gear, and when you overdrive them just so, it can add incredibly pleasing harmonic overtones. Today, there are hybrid studios, with computer workstations still at the center, but now with rows of analog gear that effectively wash the digital sounds back into the computer to recover what was lost. But as I thought about this more, I think we lost a whole lot more than that. The notion that this analog sound is some kind of a filter or an additive element that you wash or marinate your sound through, a box or a plugin, feels incomplete. Certainly, these analog saturation plugins or analog washing machines are very convenient, but it doesn't get us any closer to the sound or the instruments that actually make up our music. Don't get me wrong, the reality is that computers are ultra powerful and they unlock tremendous productivity and efficiency. It's just inevitable. But maybe the inconvenience of the analog process helps us to be a little bit more open to experimentation, allowing room for unexpected results. And maybe that's what we lost. This is the exact reason why Eurorack modules resonate with me so much, and possibly many of you guys as well. I didn't realize it at first, but this expensive, fussy, difficult to learn set of gear was actually helping me to slow down and savor the music making journey. It's forcing me to take more deliberate, more unusual paths. I still have to know what I want, but the sound smithing is where I've been so inspired. It's not that Eurorack modules somehow make you more creative. I think it simply magnifies what's inside you. Because at times it is painstaking and quite inconvenient. But when you do uncover something really interesting and unexpected, you find joy and satisfaction because you're so connected to that source of that idea, because it's you, it's your unique you. Another process that I've adopted in trying to recover the lost voice is thinking about how I can get as close as possible to the sound source itself. And this process naturally bakes in that analog flavor I'm trying to almost reverse engineer in the computer. So I'm a good woodwind player, so I'm always thinking about recording woodwinds and adding them to my music. I've got some orchestral background, so I can at least attempt to learn new instruments and generate and record those sounds myself. This also means restraining myself from using too many samples, as tempting as it is. There's no shame in using orchestral samples to fill in the gaps while writing your music. Orchestras are incredibly expensive and they are time-consuming to record. But maybe this means I should think twice about using a 100-piece orchestra sample to write a quasi John Williams score that dangerously starts to sound like everyone else. Everyone else has access to these sounds, and your creative voice becomes less and less unique and more generic. This would be a classic example of your unique musical voice becoming detached from your sound source if you're not careful. Instead, with my limited skill set and resource, I will lean on my creativity and experiment, fumble maybe, and struggle and push through. Just get a mic and record. And maybe that's where the breakthroughs happen, and that's where I find my voice. The third cool trick that I learned in my time as a former audio professional is the concept of worldizing. This is a pretty common practice in film post-production, and it's really nothing fancy, and it's most inconvenient. It's a lot like reamping, but less sterile and sometimes wildly over the top. There's a video of the sound team on the film Lord of the Rings building a literal tree trunk chamber, piping the actor's pre-recorded voice out of a speaker on one end and pipe that sound through this hollow wood contraption and re-recording it from the other end. Perhaps digital reverbs or pitch shifting didn't sound quite right for Peter Jackson and their sound team. I don't know the whole story, but boy, it is fascinating and it sounds and looks very inconvenient. I'm not proposing that we never use sample libraries or record live drums for every song we write, or track everything to 2-inch tape, or build some crazy contraption for worldizing voices. I think it's just a reminder for me to never let the computer and the convenience dominate my creative process. Sometimes it's the inconvenience that could be where the magic happens. But what say you? Do you have any inconvenient workflows that you'd like to share? Or any analog workflows that is absolutely worth the extra effort? I would love to know. Let's discuss in the comments below. Thanks for watching.